All right, this is our last chapter in part 1 of the book. It's called Torchie Flicks Away. I spun and looked down at the math book lying on the floor. Talk about a deadly weapon. I picked it up and stared back into the room. Okay, I'd taken enough crap for one day. More than enough. I walked in. The kid glanced up, watching me with empty eyes. "You trying to hit me?" I asked. "If you were, you better practice. Your aim sucks." I held out the book, ready to jump back if he took a swing at me. He was about my size, hard to tell for sure since he was sitting, but maybe a couple inches taller and a few pounds heavier, but close enough so I figured that I could take him if I had to. "I wasn't trying to hit you." He reached up, took the book from me, and tossed it on the bed. I noticed that there was just one bed in the room. Torchie had told me that some of the rooms were so small they didn't try to cram 2 people inside. I relaxed a bit and glanced around the room. Whoa, looked like the inside of a rock tumbler. The window was boarded over with a sheet of plywood. There were chips of plaster missing from all spots on the 4 walls. Most of the books in the room were piled in one corner. Tangled clothing covered the floor of the closet. The closet door was smashed through in a couple of spots and hanging from one hinge. "You must be Trash," I said. "I must be." "I'm Martin," I said, holding out my hand. "I'm working." "Nice to meet you." We shook hands. His grip was a lot stronger than I expected. I took a step back. "Well, I've got homework. Better get to it." "Okay." He turned back to his sketch pad. I looked over his shoulder. It started out as a quick glance, but what I saw locked me in place. He was drawing this incredible scene of a rocket shooting across an alien landscape. I watched him for a few minutes, but he didn't look back up, so I went out the door and down the hall to my room. As I got close to the room, I heard voices from inside. It sounded like Torchie and Lucky. "Close the freezer." Torchie was saying, "We can't trust him." "Maybe," Lucky said, "but I don't want to take any chances, so let's not rush." "Okay," said Torchie. "What did I just tell you?" I waited to see if they would say anything else about me, but they didn't. After a while, I felt funny standing out there listening, so I rattled the knob to make sure that they heard me coming, then went in. "Hi," said Torchie a little too quickly. "Hi." I sat at my desk and got started on my homework while Torchie and Lucky found another topic of conversation. It was okay. They had a secret, I was new, and it would take a while before they trusted me. I was pretty sure the secret had something to do with Friday nights because they almost let something slip about that already. A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Principal Davis stuck his head in and said to Torchie, "Come with me, please, Philip." Torchie sighed as he went past me and said, "Didn't do nothing." He followed the principal out into the hallway. "What do you think will happen to him?" said Lucky. He shrugged. "No way to guess." He stared at me. I was afraid he'd start shouting again. Instead, he quietly said, "I look out for my friends. Understand? Torchie, he's my friend. Same with Cheater, blah, blah, blah. Same with Cheater and Flinch. They're my friends. You treat them okay? We'll get along." All right, and this is Trash's drawing that he was working on. Pretty good. I nodded. "No problem." I stood up. He stood up. "See you later. Bye." About an hour later, Torchie came back. He smelled like smoke. Well, he always smelled like smoke, but now it was stronger than ever. "What happened?" I asked. "They made me light fires. Can you believe that? For a whole hour, they just kept making me burn up pieces of paper." He held up his right thumb. "Look, I got a blister from the lighter." "They made you light fires?" He nodded. "I guess they figure if they made me do it, I'll get tired of it, but I didn't do nothing in the first place." I didn't say anything. Obviously, he wanted to keep pretending that he didn't have a problem. As I finished my homework, Lucky came back. I realized that our room was the place where everyone hung out. Maybe it was because we were at the end of the hall. Maybe it was because Torchie had a lot of magazines. Lucky had brought his portable stereo. "It's mine," he said when he caught me looking at it. "I didn't steal it. I got it last Christmas." "Hey, I didn't say anything," I told him. Cheater came next. Flinch dropped by soon after that. It wasn't like a party or anything. It was just a bunch of us sitting around talking or reading or just listening to music. Maybe it was a safety thing. Together, we were less likely to be harmed by bloodbath. Maybe it was a social thing. We had the common bond of being sent to Edgeview. I really didn't feel like I was trying to examine it right then. "Does Trash ever drop in?" I asked Torchie after the other kids had left. "Him? No way. We tried hanging out with him. All of us did, especially me. I tried really hard to make friends with him, but he's not a lot of fun to have around. He's always throwing stuff. That kind of makes the rest of us nervous." "I can see how it might." Torchy shook his head. He even threw a sneaker at Bloodbath once in the locker room. Can you believe it? He got the crap kicked out of him for that. I didn't want to hear any more about Bloodbath. Hey, you got anything to read besides magazines? Torchy pointed to the closet. I have a ton of books in there. Help yourself. Thanks. I opened the closet and dug through his collection. There was a lot of good stuff. He had some Jack London and Jules Verne, but I'd already read most of that. My sister had gotten me started on them, along with H.G. Wells, Robert Heinlein, and Roald Dahl. I discovered Dean Koontz and Stephen King on my own. I searched around and finally picked up a battered and slightly charred paperback called 50 Great Science Fiction Stories. Maybe it was the book that gave me my first real hint. The stories I read described all kinds of strange and wonderful things. I guess they gave my mind a shove in a direction that I hadn't planned. At one point, I glanced up from the book and looked at the clock on Torchy's desk. A whole day, I said. What? Torchy asked. I've been here a whole day. Happy anniversary, Torchy said. Thanks. I thought about my first day. It couldn't be called a success. I'd gotten nearly every teacher angry with me. I was used to that sort of reaction, but even I was surprised at how quickly I'd gotten into trouble. Still, I didn't think it was fair to compare me with kids who set fires or stole or threw stuff or cheated all the time. Fair. Now there was a fun word. Dad liked to remind me that life wasn't fair. I'd heard that from him more than once. Then he'd tell me all the things that I should be thankful for. And then he'd tell me how easy my life was compared to when he was a kid. And I'd tell myself I couldn't wait to get away. Well, here I was, away, for real. I'd never been away from my parents like this before. Not in a place I couldn't leave. I was on my own. There were teachers all over the school. Edgeview had no shortage of adults. But that didn't change the fact that I was on my own. None of the adults here had any reason to care about what happened to me. None of the teachers was going to worry about the fate of one more face in the crowd, no matter what they might say about wanting to help. They especially wouldn't care after the way things had gone today. As I heard the dinner bell ring, I put down the book of science fiction stories and got to my feet. Pretty strange, I said to Torchy. Yeah, it's got some cool stories, he said. I didn't bother to tell him that I hadn't been talking about the book. All right, here we've got another bit of evidence. This is a staff memo, and it says it's from Principal Davis to all staff. Subject, state inspection. And we know that this comes up every 5 years. Be quiet, please. We know that the inspections come up every 5 years from other bits of evidence that the author has included in the story. With our inspection just 5 months away, we need to begin preparations. I expect us all to pitch in and work together. Please be prepared to discuss this in detail at the next staff meeting. As you all are aware, the state has had some pressure from town residents who aren't in favor of our school. It says, fortunately, Mayor Walden is still on our side. And here we have another bit of evidence. It says, hey Marty, so how's your vacation so far? Is it as much fun as the week we spent at Williamsburg? Mom and Dad miss you, even though you just left. I can tell. Well, okay, Mom misses you. Who knows what Dad's thinking? He's been stomping around all week with that angry look, you know, where he's mad, but you don't have a clue why. But I sure miss you, especially at bedtime. I still say, good night, you creepy little twerp, but nobody answers back. I wish you'd get your act together. It feels awfully empty around here. Are you using that charming personality of yours to make any friends? Your wonderful sister, Terry. Okay, so Marty, we know, is a popular nickname for the name Martin. And we have the word sister in the sign-off here. So we know that Terry is Martin's big sister.